Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very excited.
Oh, me too.
Like a
I just
kid
like to
with
talk
me.
about dogs all day. So,
So welcome to the first episode of Chinwag.
woo!
Woo! Um, so Chinwag is going to be an offshoot of the Happy Dog podcast, and it is just you and me
It literally
chatting
is
about
us, but that's not just us. That's exciting for it just being us. We're
yeah,
great.
yeah, it's just us, and you all have to be excited about it, like it or lump it. So we decided to do Chinwag as an offshoot because we chat about dogs between ourselves on voice notes all day, every day.
Literally all day, every day. We might as well share it with the world, eh?
Exactly. So come on this journey with us. And we will go off on tangents.
We
Oh,
will. Yeah, we talk about everything. So you've got an insight to our personal lives too.
absolutely. You're going to, by the end of this year, you're going to know so much about us and stuff you probably don't even want to know along the way as well. But we are also open to loads of questions about
Mhm.
anything dog related that you think we can have a chinwag about. So
Mhm.
if you want to drop us a question, then you can reach us on our socials, is probably the easiest way.
Yeah, and there's no topic that can't be talked about. We're like a non-judgmental space. So anyone can come in, anyone can talk, and we can just enjoy learning about each other's knowledge.
Absolutely. And if you want to drop us a question as a voice note, we might even work out how to include that into the show.
Ooh, that'd be good.
Plus, we've just spent about 20 minutes working out how to actually record ourselves.
It's we're good dog trainers. We're not fantastic at tech.
No, tech is not my friend half the time. I argue with it. I can't even set my microphone up with my new laptop. So we are.
Oh,
Okay. So what's our first topic today?
our first topic is what is a good dog trainer? So what qualities are involved and this is something that I've asked to the public and it's something that I've asked to my clients. Now, I have to say there is some bias here because a lot of my clients are female. So
Okay.
a lot of the things that come through are from females, but there are a few blokes in there as well that have given their thoughts on this. And I kind of wanted to relate it a bit to problem solving because I
Okay.
think that's like one thing that we do a lot. So when we have our chats and we do all our millions of voice notes or we talk on Zoom, we always end up trying to work together to problem solve. And I think that makes me a better dog trainer. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah,
Good.
definitely.
I feel like I've impacted you. That's good.
It's making
Um,
you a better dog trainer, Kim, because
yes,
let's
come
face
on.
it.
Knowing me makes you a better person, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely I also think sometimes when you're problem solving for another dog trainer,
Mm,
think about it slightly differently and you don't have as you maybe don't have as much information and so you're a bit more general with your suggestions and so
yeah,
therefore you can um go wider with what could be causing the problem rather than when you're in a
yeah,
situation sometimes you can get the blinkers on because you've prejudged something or you know the dog for a really long time or so,
yeah.
there's other stuff going on that makes it you don't see the bigger picture sometimes.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I think for me as well, sometimes if I, not necessarily if I've known the dogs a long time, but if I know the people,
Yeah,
maybe I know them personally, or if I've worked with them before a long time ago, I feel like sometimes that's more pressure on me. And the more pressure I have, the more I probably don't think about things outside the box that I would if it was someone I don't know.
yeah.
So yes, that is really, really useful.
Or if you've not had that problem before,
Mm,
if you've not come across that particular issue, uh, someone else will have done. That's the beauty
yeah.
of the dog
Yeah, or if
community.
it's, I think if it's outside your expertise as well, and I think this is also on a tangent a bit, is another skill of a dog trainer that I think is fantastic that I've only just started to open myself up to be able to do. And that skill is to fully know your limits, but to be able to ask for help to
Yeah,
other professionals and to know that it's not that you're not a good dog trainer. It's just that actually you can't know everything. You can't be good at everything or have experienced everything. And
yeah.
actually to talk to somebody else just gives you a new perspective and you might learn something. And that means your next client that you come across with that, you've got those skills to deal with it.
There's that graph, isn't there? Oh, and it's like the more you know, the more aware of the bits you don't know. is it the Dunning-Kruger graph where it goes like you start doing something and you think you know it all, and then the
Yeah,
longer you do it for, you realize that actually there's a whole area of stuff that you've never heard of, you
yeah,
don't know, and you need to delve into.
yeah,
And that's one of the things I really like about being a dog trainer. I'll never know it all, and there's
yeah.
always expansion on learning stuff, different techniques,
Mhm.
or different ways of doing things,
Yeah.
and it allows you to have this job that is like never ending.
It is, and you know what? That is something that I've had to work through, because I
Yes.
feel like when I first started, I'm quite stubborn. I don't really like being told what to do,
No,
and this is why I'm good.
what?
I'm
Brand new
shut
information,
up.
absolute brand new information. Whoa.
I'm great at being self-employed. I'm basically a Jack Russell, and I'm very good at it. I just like to do my own thing. But I think that's something that you said about that graph, that when I first thought about that, I found it really overwhelming,
Yeah.
because it was like, I can't, like, I'm never going to reach that goal of being a great dog trainer or a great behaviorist, because it is never ending. I'm never going to get there. That, like, there's some kind of end goal or end result, and there isn't.
No.
Like, we're always, like, science is always changing as well, and we work with, science-based things that we work with science-based
We went with
backings. Yeah.
science-based
There's,
things.
there's a word that I was trying to grasp while I was thinking about something else, and it wasn't coming out. So we work with scientific studies, thank you, um, on changes in dog training, and they're happening all the time. We're
Yeah.
learning new things about dogs all the time. So you can't ever know everything about dogs.
No.
And if anyone ever tells you they do, they are closed-minded, because they
That's exactly it. I think that I am a like perpetual student. I do love to
yeah.
study and I do love to learn in whatever form that might be. And one of the things I really like is that there's always new stuff to know. There's always new research coming out that's just tweaking stuff and changing stuff. And
Yeah.
that's why, I know that there's no pack hierarchy in the dogs because science has shown this.
Mm.
Some people maybe need to read a few more studies on things to understand and open their mind to the fact that things have moved on since that study in like the 1960s. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like, really tricky. I was speaking to someone yesterday, in fact, my hairdresser came round, as you can tell.
Obviously.
Obviously. And she was saying, because she's got a new puppy, and she had a dog that came through our school like 4 or 5 years ago. And she was like, it's just so overwhelming. Like, you can
Yeah.
start to research something online and you don't know who to listen to, because everyone's got a different piece of
Yeah.
advice. And that goes for the public as well as dog trainers. And you think, how, like, if I was a new dog trainer now, I would find it so hard to navigate my way. I'm really glad I started when I did, and I made some mistakes, and I found some things out that I was like, okay, I thought this was the only way. And then I learned that it wasn't, because you start to research better. But the amount of research that's out there now that is great, but also advice and, old school trainers and really horrible TikTok accounts, it's like it's kind of evened out when you first go in as a new dog trainer or a new dog owner. You can't differentiate between what's good and what's not. It's so tricky.
No, sometimes what I do just as like to help my clients is I will Google something like toilet training a puppy and just see what is coming up, kind of use those really generic search terms that I know that every new puppy owner uses. And I will just search and see what comes up, because like, I've read 𝘒𝙗𝙗's books. I bought them from a charity shop because I did not want him to have any money from it. But
Great idea.
yeah, because you have to know the stuff that is out there that is not going to help the owners progress.
Yeah.
And Googling and reading the, people I don't necessarily agree with their methods, what they're putting out there, does then help me, so that when I go and see someone and I see on the bookshelf that there's 𝘒𝙗𝙗 or whatever,
Yes.
or they mention that guy on the TV, and I know then what kind of information they've been given, and then I can structure the information I'm going to give them to help them overcome that.
Yeah. And you kind of work around what they think they know.
Yeah.
And you pull it apart gently for them, and
Yes.
it's not overwhelming. Yeah. I've recently had somebody with a puppy that I've worked that way with. They've been told a lot of things, and you have to go, and you can't just go in and say it's all crap, you can't do that.
Yeah,
it doesn't work. You have to kind of go, well, this is why this will happen in the future. This is going to be the consequence of that. So actually, let's see if we can change it and do it like this. And it's like and this is another one of the answers that came up when I asked everybody about
what was that?
About what makes a good dog trainer, and that is not judging somebody, going in with no judgment at all over what they've already sought help in. So
totally, because it is overwhelming, and I always go in with the my thought process is that nobody gets a dog to cause problems in that dog. Nobody gets a puppy and is like, how badly can I mess this dog up? Like, how many wrong things can I do to create problems for myself in the future? Like, everyone goes in wanting to bring that dog up in the best possible way, in the way that they think is scientifically the best way, or ways that they've done it before. They never go in going, I really want to get this wrong. Like, how can I get this wrong?
And you're right. And a lot of the time, I think this is something else as well, is I used to go to people's houses where that was happening, and we get this quite a lot, where people call you and they're like, I'm at my wit's end. If I had £1 for every time someone said wit's end, I would be so rich. And they have, what they're communicating to you is that they're frustrated with the dog. They've got really negative emotions towards the dog. And actually, if you are patient and you don't judge and you kind of go in very, very gently, what you'll find is actually it's them going, I feel embarrassed that I haven't managed this. It's my fault. I've done this. And you pick that out quite quickly. And then once you manage to get through to them in that way, you're then able to support them better. Whereas if you go in and it's all about, the dog and what's happening there, you can't reach those people. So
no. And I think you do have to be really mindful of the owner's emotions within the situation. I've been called in to help somebody who's had maybe another dog trainer in, and they were like, they just came in, they told me I was doing it wrong, they were really judgy, they told me that was a stupid thing to do with my dog. And I, you sit there and you just think, I can't imagine in any other, if you bring up a child and they had some kind of behavioral issues going on, the health visitor or the social worker would be going in and being like, well, you shouldn't feed them this and you should do this, and being judgmental. It's about helping people. We're coaching people to have easier lives with their dogs. That was the whole point of the Happy Dog podcast, was to help people have happy, give it people lots of information to help them have happy dogs. That's all that people want.
Yeah, and lots of them will be having happy dogs because of it. So
well, hopefully, So I do think being non-judgmental is a vital part of being a dog trainer, and being open.
And also on the side of that is not judging people for asking questions. So please excuse my neighbour's dog barking if you can hear it. I have a lot of people that will message, and again, I'm generalising a little bit, but it tends to be more females. Maybe it's because they will push themselves to ask the questions, but they'll also be very I hope this isn't a stupid question. I'm sorry to take your time up. It's like, especially those people that have been told by another dog professional that they're doing things wrong, that they've gone wrong with this, they've gone wrong with that, or they're not giving their dog the best life. Like, it squashes their confidence down so low that they're almost scared to ask for help again. And that's what worries me sometimes. I'm just always say to people, if they come to me after they've seen another dog trainer, I'll say, I'm so sorry on behalf of the industry for the experience you've had. You will never ever be judged by me, and you can contact me at any point of the day. I'm terrible. I keep my phone open and on all the time, which is not great for me personally, but I at least can help those people feel like they're fully supported, and hopefully the dog will have a better time of it too.
I also think that those I don't think they're stupid questions, but I'm going to use that term of like those stupid questions that people feel that they're stupid. If people ask those, then they're thinking about what they're doing. So that's brilliant. And they're also, we're not missing an opportunity, because what they think might be a stupid question might be the key to everything. Like,
and we might be missing something in our teaching if multiple people ask that question. That's feedback for us that we can make everything more accessible, maybe.
Totally. Like a perceived stupid question might be like, am I feeding too many treats? Well, okay, let's have a think about that. Can we knock the dog's food back a little bit? Or no, you're feeding the right amount of treats for the level of training that you need to do. Like it seems a simple question, but that it's like a multifaceted response to that. And it's really important, because I would much rather people feed loads of treats, so they're doing loads of training, compared to not, because they're worried that they're feeding too many, and then they're missing opportunities to reward behaviors. So sometimes they can be like the little questions are the key to understanding the bigger parts to the training.
Yeah, definitely. And I like it in classes as well. So, you know, if I'm explaining something to a group and everyone's got a bit of a blank face and you're like, have they understood? Have they not? I'm not sure. Okay, we'll go with it. I like the people that are like, I don't get it. Or I think I've missed this. Is my timing off for this? Can you just watch me do this? Can I send you a video of this? And then you're like, okay, yes, I can help you with this because the feedback's there. So
because we've all taught those classes where the whole class just sits, explain stuff, and you look around and you think, I don't know. And then they all just sit and like timidly do stuff. And you're like, huh. Whereas if you're teaching a class and you've got loads of people asking questions and being, you know, kind of putting themselves out there to ask the questions, like, I don't get it. Can you go through that again? I'm not sure when I'm supposed to feed the treat, what behavior am I, whatever it might be. From a dog trainer's point of view, they're so much easier to teach, because you're like, okay, cool, we've got feedback. And now when I explain the next thing, I can make sure that I'm covering that off. And
yeah, definitely. And also as well, if people are struggling to do something, if I have people in class that are maybe neurodivergent, which I have a lot of them in my school, and a lot of them in my, you know, we do the girls project, which is lovely, and we have a lot of or a couple of them on the group that are neurodivergent, and they've said that they love being with us because we have the ability to adapt and talk to people in a way that is like really welcoming and you know, empathic, and we can kind of work around what their queries are. And I find that sometimes in class, either it's a confidence issue or it's a mechanics issue, where they're not sure about something and they'll either stay silent and I'll spot it and I'll go over and I'll do it not in front of other people, and I'll go over and I'll be like, okay, let me show you. Are you a visual learner? And let me talk it through you in, you know, smaller steps. So it's that adaptability as well. And I think that is something that does make you a very good dog trainer. And it's something that I would say I'm back myself now, I'm quite good at, because my background is teaching children. So to teach classes of children, you have to be able to adapt very quickly to different learning styles. And I think then going into a class of adults, you just do the same thing. So effectively, it's, you know, we're teaching people. We're not teaching dogs that often. No. We're training people, and you have to be good at understanding and reading people. Otherwise, that is also quite tricky for your job.
Yeah, I also think there's a couple of things there. I think it's a weird job that we have, because we're teaching people to teach immediately. So they're not learning it and then teaching it. They're like learning and teaching in one go. So it's slightly different. And I also think having adaptability as a dog trainer takes a depth of knowledge, and it takes time, because when you first start becoming a dog trainer, you learn how to teach a sit, and a down's maybe a better example. You learn to teach a down by kind of putting the treat like through down in between the dog's legs, and the dog just naturally like folds back into a down. Do that with a dachshund, they just step backwards. Or you do it with a greyhound and they're too long.
I was going to say greyhound.
Or, you know, or you do it with a spaniel or a Labrador who just wants to eat the treat and doesn't care about anything else and is just walking around your hand trying to eat the treat. You need to learn 3 or 4 different ways to teach that one behavior so you can adapt it to the dog. And then you look at the owner and you think, oh no, that's not going to work for them. So then you have to have another way that you can get the owner to do what you've just done with the dog. So there's so many different layers of being adaptable. You need to be adaptable to the dog, to the environment, and to the owner as well. To try and find a way to put all of those things together to be successful.
And that is, like you've said, that is not something that you can go to a college or whatever to learn to do. It is a magical combination of learning knowledge and CPD, expanding your variety of skills that you have, and also time and experience of working with such a variety of different dogs. Like being in the deep end for me, I think has been like I have probably more experience than I do qualifications in this, in the 10, 11 years that I've been training. I would say actually it's more that I've done more with more dogs in a different, like a big variety of dogs, and learned that way. Or if there have been problems, I've problem solved on the go. So it's exactly that. And it's like having people with
you can only problem solve on the go because you have a depth of knowledge. So you might not know how to do it for that particular dog, but your breadth and depth of knowledge, or our breadth and depth of knowledge, allows us to come up with a new way of doing something on the fly.
And I think an element of that is also understanding how to break down a process. If you can break a process down quite easily and quickly in your head, you can work out how to rebuild it more slowly or differently. Whereas if that's really, like, I think in the beginning when you start dog training, you're like, oh God, this is the goal, this is where I want to be, I know this structure is how to get there. And then you go away and then you're like, oh, actually, someone else said I can do it like this, or I've YouTubed this, and this is how I do it. And then once you work through, you're like, even if it's not that specific skill you've already done, you start to learn just how to break down exercises, and then it becomes like second nature to you.
Totally. What else was on your list from people that
here's my, I have terrible handwriting, but this is my list, and I even did it in red and green.
I was just gonna say, it's so festive.
Okay, so the main thing that came up with everybody was adaptability. So that is being able to see the individual dog in front of you and person, and to know, and I think you mentioned legs the other day as well, it's just looking at the breed, it's looking at the family, it's looking at the time element that they have, it's looking at their lifestyle, it's everything that you go through that will help you to get to the best way of teaching or training that thing.
It also is training the dog in front of you on that day. So if you've done several sessions with a dog, you get a preconceived idea of what you're going to walk into, and on that day, if it's windy, like, I don't know how you find the wind, but the wind is like my least favorite weather, because when you're dog training in the wind, those dogs are like on a different planet. They are wild. And you might have trained in the person's house, and then you go out and it's a still day and everything transfers beautifully, and you're like, oh my God, look at me, it's amazing. And then at the minute it's really windy, and you're like, we need to adapt everything immediately, because the scent's all swirling around and the dog's ears are flapping in the wind. So it's not just that individual dog, but it's that individual dog that's in front of you in that training session, in that moment as well.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm really glad that you said this, because I had a prime example last night. I went out with one of my clients who has a gorgeous golden retriever, and he's a bit sensitive, as they tend to be when they're in adolescence. And we went out specifically to go and do a life skills session on some gun dog elements. So we're teaching a stop whistle, and we wanted to go and do some place training when there were more distractions around. And we went out, it was dark. One difference that we had in our session. It was very cold, which was another thing. There was a little bit of wind as well. It was 5 o'clock, so there were quite a few people around. And then we had a stream of Santa fire engines come through the village.
Of course you did. Why haven't you trained for that before?
I know, I mean, I heard the sirens and I was like, okay, this is interesting. We're in a tiny village. I don't know what's happened here. And then I saw them and I was like, okay. So we went to the green that I was planning to go to. When we got there, I went, scrap this. We're not doing this. We're going to do an opportunistic training session. Let's go and stand, I don't know, I think he would probably manage 10, 15 meters away where the fire engines are, because it's people that sometimes he's a bit unsure of. He might bark at them. So let's give him some distance, and we're not going to have high requirements of him. We're just going to throw some treats on the ground somewhere near here, so that if he wants to, and I know the dog disengages on his own and sniffs better than trying to recall him. So we stopped there, and he was watching, and it was loud. There were people walking by everywhere, and he basically just stood there and watched. And I was like, this is really beneficial for him right now. So we are going to work with this, and it's live training. And then actually at the end of the session, I was talking to his dad, and he said he agreed with me that actually doing these live coaching sessions where real life, well, it wasn't exactly real life Santa coming around in a fire engine, but
what are you saying? What are you saying
real
about
life
Santa?
But like he said, that I think the live coaching is really beneficial because you can problem solve on the go, and it teaches him as an owner the skills to problem solve on the go as well. So I really enjoy doing those sessions, and it's that kind of resilience as a trainer in that when it doesn't go according to your plan for that session, you can bounce back and show people actually it's okay for you to abort the plan if you're doing your training session, and you can just move on and do something simpler or something more opportunistic depending on what's happening.
It's one of the reasons I don't like training in secure fields as the most part. They have their place, and I do train in them, so it's not that I don't use them at all. But training a dog in a secure field doesn't help the owner on their next dog walk as much as going on a walk that you've got quite a lot of management you can put in around it. In Harrogate, we're quite lucky. We've got quite a lot of like open flat spaces where dogs are generally well behaved or on a lead. And working in that space and saying to the owner, look, you can walk here because you can do this evasive action, or you can do this training, or you can use this to help them sniff, you can use this to decompress. Then when they need to walk their dog day in, day out, they have those skills. Whereas I think if you go to a secure field and it's all really managed, obviously for some dogs that's what they need, but for majority of dogs, if you just do stuff there, that doesn't then the owner isn't learning those transferable skills to put them on their normal dog walks as easily as if we, like you say, we were going to do some recall training and then Santa appeared, so we had to do some Santa training. Like, that's very different. And I think that having the confidence to be like, we can do this in this environment helps the owner to then go, okay, well, we've done it, so we can do it again.
Yeah, and I think I mean, this may be the same for you actually, because we both started with dog walking and sort of training based walks. When you have started in the industry through that avenue and you've been there yourself with people's dogs and you've had to think on your feet, because when I started the walk and train, it was all dogs that pull like trait train, or it was reactivity. So most of my learning was on the spot, thinking, learning on the job. So I was doing studying, and I was also trying to put it into place whilst I was doing it. So you learn how to do it. And then what I've found really helpful is there's some dogs, not for all of them, and for some owners and not for all of them, that when you go out with them, if I take the lead to start with and I do 10 minutes of, if you're an observant learner, watch how I work with your dog. Then when we're in a safe space and the dog has maybe defizzed a little bit, I'm like, okay, you take the reins now and I will coach you through it and see how we do it. And I sometimes just find that easier to go in and just go, let me have a feel around and see what this feels like and what is working for the dog. And then I can be like, right, got it. And personally for me, that's why I prefer most of the time, if I'm doing one-to-one coaching, to do it face-to-face. Just because I'm there with the dog, I can see what the human mechanics are like. And so it is possible absolutely online, and I know like video recording is a great asset that we've got, but for me as a teacher and also as a learner, I find it good to watch and observe and be there and do it. So
what else
on my list,
there must be something other than adaptability.
It's really good. Okay, so we've got fun. Fun. Like, it makes such a difference. Like if a dog training session is boring for you, and I've taught rally a few times, and I love the idea of it, and then every time I teach it, I'm bored of it. I don't like it.
It doesn't do it for me. It doesn't do it for me. I have to say.
I will teach it, and then I'm like, okay. I mean, as an agility instructor, obviously it's slower, so I'm like, come on. So actually, for me to teach skills that I don't find fun is then going to relate to my clients that it's not that fun. If I do things that I find fun and I'm passionate about teaching, even if it's a sit but in a different way, like it's going to help.
I agree. I think it has to be fun, and there are some dog trainers near me who are on the other side. They're on the dark side of dog training. And I've taught sessions near them for like around an hour. Obviously, our diary timings were the same. And they've
Yeah.
literally stood still in the same place. I don't know what they're teaching. Maybe that's really important. It happens a lot. They stand
Mm,
still in the same place for the hour.
wow.
Whereas we'll have done, I'm not saying I do a million steps with it, but we'll have done stuff. We'll have done some scatter feeding. We'll have done sniffing of a tree. We'll have hidden some sprats somewhere. We'll have done some fun recall training. We'll have done this. We'll have done that. We'll have challenged people. Like we've been
Yeah.
all over the place and done all. And I think, wow, that looks really boring. If
Do
that
you
was
know what I
my
feel
job,
like? If you don't feel like you've done a mini cardio workout, you've not done a good training
yeah,
session with your
totally.
dog.
Yeah. I just think if that was my job to stand in a field or on a field or wherever and not
Mhm.
really move for an hour, A, I'd be freezing cold most of the year, but
Yeah,
also, I would be bored out of my brain because you
yeah.
can't teach a dog for an hour. Like a dog cannot learn for an hour with no breaks. They can't learn. I can't learn continuously for an hour, let alone a dog. So
Yeah.
you might be teaching loose lead walking, which I do struggle to make really fun because it's steady and like repetitive. But the bits in
Mm,
between I can make really fun so that we've got a bit of walking and then we can do some fun stuff. And
yeah.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
make walking fun, but it is for me, it's one of the ones that I struggle the most with to make.
It's only fun once you've got a dog that engages.
Once you, yeah, yeah,
If you work on, this is the thing I say to people, they're like, I want to work on loose lead walking, and the first thing I'm like, well, will your dog focus on you when you're standing still? Because if they won't, let's start with lots of engagement and make
yeah,
you like the most fun thing in the world, and then loose lead walking is so much easier.
yeah,
And it becomes fun because your dog's not frustrated because they just want the environment,
yeah,
and you work on that bit first, and then it kind of a lot of the time it sorts itself out
yeah.
in a
I
good way.
totally
Yeah,
agree. But
yeah.
still, when you're walking for minutes in a loose lead, that there's only so much fun you can add in without, especially if you're working with a dog who works quite close to being over aroused as well. You
Yes.
can't hype
Yeah.
it up too much, so you're trying to like bring everything down. But yeah, unlike recall, like recall, you can have so much fun with recall. Like
Oh
I
my God, it's the most fun thing.
love recall, and I am like it's exhausting at the end of it. I'm like run, and I'm like sorry.
Yeah, and I do encounter this quite a lot in probably more so in gun dog than anything, because traditional gun dog training, which I
Oh,
do not teach, is very calm, and because they have to be if they're going on shoots and
yeah, it
they're
can't be
going
running
off to
around
do
like
trials.
lunatics.
Yeah, they have to be still, and you have to give your dog minimal instruction, whereas I'm like really excited. So when we have dogs come into our gunless gun dog classes, they are usually adolescent, and a lot of them will have been. There's one recently that I've had come through. They've kind of been kicked out of the gun dog grades
Yeah,
because they're just not mature enough yet. And I'm like, okay, brilliant. This is the perfect dog for
yeah,
me. And the first thing we do is we work out what makes them tick.
yeah,
What, like, if you want your dog to work for you or you have a requirement of that dog, you need to be giving them something back that they really like, because
yeah,
otherwise that partnership is not going to work. So if you've got a dog that is I don't know, cocker spaniel, who is like 7 months old and loves people, like so sociable, which they're bred to be,
yeah,
and you're trying to get them to sit for 5 minutes in a park, it's like a really hard ask.
yeah,
Whereas if you go to a park and you're like, okay, I ask you to sit for 3 seconds and then you get to play tuggy or you get to chase this
yeah,
thing, and then for 5 seconds, yes, you get to move again.
yeah,
Like with a cocker spaniel, like the main thing you can do is reinforce them with movement. Like
yeah.
they love it, and they're more likely to then come and work for you and do something slightly less
Right.
boring, more boring for them, because you're going to give them that outlet that is like the best thing ever for them. So it's making it fun for the human, it's also making it fun for the dog. What will
Yeah,
the dog work for that makes them like, I want to do that again, I
yeah,
really want to do that again, that's awesome. And I think that's a good skill to have, because it's,
totally.
yeah, I love that saying of when you've got a hammer everything looks like a nail. So
Yes.
when you first, either I find this when you're first starting up and you've got a limited amount of skills, or you've learned through one specific course and you only work by the
Yeah,
course, train other people, or you are, to say, if you're an aversive trainer it's a slip lead or a collar.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the things that you work with, and it's like, oh, the dog's got this problem, we'll use this. This is the skill we have. We're going to use it. Whereas when you open your world a little bit and you meet those dogs and you learn what makes them tick, the reinforcement options are
huge,
massive.
huge.
And
Everything's a reinforcement.
Yeah, like you sometimes, again, going on the, working cocker or show cocker, if you just touch them, there's reinforcing. Yeah, they're like, oh my God, you love me. Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Whereas if you got a Jack Russell, doing that to them they'll be like, they can't.
It touched me.
Yeah, get off me, I'm working, go away. Whereas if you like send them out into the environment, or if you have a flirt pole or something like that, they're like, I get to kill it. Yeah,
let me at it. Yeah, totally. I love that. I love the fact that people have said that making the training sessions fun makes them enjoy being with a dog trainer. That's really good.
Hugely. And I think going by the agility school, and people, this blows my mind sometimes as well. I'm like, so I don't know whether people are enjoying the classes or not. Like, I'm having a great time. And then someone's like, Carla, they've been coming to you for 8 years. Like,
okay.
They must enjoy something. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I just carry on being like this then. This is great. And I think for a lot of them, they honestly don't really care about the agility. They have fun because it's their outlet.
Yeah, and it's something that they're doing with their dog, which there's not a load of things that you can do that, is not just walking your dog, that is over and above you can do with your dog. So that's really good. What else is sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think you probably find the same thing, is that if you go to people's houses where they're working on stuff like separation anxiety or reactivity and things that are really stressful, and if all you do is work on those specific things, it's all feeling very stressful and negative. Whereas you'll go in and the likelihood is, I think you'll do the same thing, is you teach them a skill that is not to do with it, that is quite positive, that is bond building. They can focus quite a lot on that fun skill or game that you're doing with them, and it enables that like communication to rebuild and that bond to come back again, the relationship to come back, which then makes the other problems a little bit less stressful.
So in the episodes we did before Christmas, that was all about people's journeys with their dogs and the disconnect that people were feeling between the dog that they imagined and the life that they imagined with that dog, and then the kind of reality, and trying to bridge that gap so that they could still have some of that dream lifestyle that they thought. Nobody, very few people would go into getting a puppy in particular and think, I really hope it hates other dogs. Like, no, my dream. Like, I really hope I can't leave it home alone. I really want to be with this dog 24/7 to the point where it causes loads of problems. Like, nobody goes in thinking that. Everyone thinks, we're gonna get a puppy, we're gonna have amazing walks, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, it's gonna be amazing, and we're gonna have this amazing life together, and my life is also going to continue in its same vein as well. I think that bond building is really important, because I think some people feel a little bit resentful of, especially with separation anxiety, because they can't just go out for coffee, can't just pop to the shop. They can't just, and I say to my separation anxiety clients, how long does it take you to get to the co-op and back if you needed some bread? And that might be like 13 minutes. And I'm like, right, that's our big goal, because that is life changing. Like, you being able to pop to the shop because you need an ingredient for tea, that's life changing. Being able to leave your dog for 4 hours is also life changing, but you can generally ask people to help with that. Whereas when you just need to pop somewhere, post office, co-op, whatever, you can't say, oh, can you have my dog for 15 minutes and then I'll pick them up on the way back.
I guess it's that, like, it's the one behavior issue that is the most isolating, isn't it?
I think so.
To just have that freedom of not having to micromanage everything in your day, to be able to just pop to the shop is huge. So that's awesome.
We talk about that a lot.
And I guess, like, within that as well, I was just thinking that ability to work, again, another skill as a trainer, is that ability to work on both behavior management and training. So they're two different things that work really well together, and sometimes management is fine. So I think it's knowing like what the goal needs to be and talking to the owner about what their goal is, and seeing if you can find something that actually would work, where you know, if your dog, your dog, for example, you've got a border collie and you're walking around a busy town, and you're like, well, I don't understand why it can't walk in busy towns. It's really reactive here. And it's like, well, does your dog need to learn to walk in busy towns? Is that realistic to your lifestyle? And is it going to help, or is it going to hinder? Like the behavior problem hasn't beaten you if you don't go there. It's a management situation. So it's being able to have those conversations with people. I think that, you don't have to have the same goal as other people of walking their golden retriever through a town where it probably likes people more.
Yeah, totally. Or even just, people who are desperate to take their dogs to coffee shops, but the dog absolutely hates going to coffee shops.
Yeah.
Can we
have that honest conversation with them and say, is it right?
I always say going to a coffee shop for a dog, for most dogs, is horrific. It's boring.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on that they can't be engaged with. They're generally, or quite often they're ignored. They're given a shoe that lasts 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's nice for us to take our dogs to coffee shops, but some dogs do like it. And this is not all dogs at all. But some dogs really don't like it. Stanley doesn't like it. Stanley's worst place in the world would be if I sat in a coffee shop. Why are we sitting? Why have we stopped? What are we doing? We need to be walking. I want to be moving constantly. Even if I just stand and talk to someone, he's like, we need to keep moving. Like, this is not where I want to be. So
that's like everything in him's like, we're a mover or we're a sleeper at home.
Yeah, exactly. There's no in between. Millie was like, I'll go to a coffee shop. I would like to sit on your knee. And I would like to go. Like, I'm fine here, but I'm also like, if we could go, that would be great.
Yeah.
So you've got to know your dog, and as a trainer, it is about kindly having these conversations, saying, do they need to go to the coffee shop? Like, and some people are like, yes, because, and then we could be like, okay. But for a lot of dogs, they don't need to be in certain situations. So.
No, and the same with the pub. And I live in the countryside, you live in the countryside, and I think I'm going to put a massive gamble on now of trying to put a statistic in there. But I would say Kennel Club, I think Kennel Club registrations were 75% gun dog over the last couple of years. And I would say that fits with where I live. So there are gun dog breeds here. And I think that there's definitely an element of it being romanticized that people want a dog to do long walks and then sit in a pub with.
Yeah.
And that is their goal. And I have people say that I want to be able to go to the pub with my dog, and I'm like, okay, we can work with that, but first of all, let's assess your dog and what their needs are, and if that fits them, because ultimately you've got this dog into your life. You want them as a companion and to work with if that's your goal, but also you're saying to them, I can provide a home that's appropriate for you. So we have to think about what their lifestyle entails and if it is suitable for what their needs are.
Yeah, it's got to be both ways. And everything that we talk about goes back to this adaptability, doesn't it? Like, that is the key part of all of this, whether it's how to provide fun for a certain dog, how to provide the relevant needs for a certain dog, assessing a certain dog for what the owner wants compared to what the dog wants. It's all going back to the fact that you need to have a depth of knowledge. You have to be depth of knowledge, and a depth of knowledge that you might not agree with as well, but that you still have it.
Definitely.
And kind of a wide scope of practical experience.
That going back to that, actually, what you just said is really good, because I feel like I attended quite a few seminars where there were things suggested. I'm talking a decade ago, where I was like, okay, interesting. Okay, I can see why you think that. And I think having that behind you and having that knowledge, or you've read books and of people that you don't really agree with, it's not having an open mind to changing your training. But it's having that ability to open your mind to say, okay, I can see why Joe Public would see that as an inviting thing to have, and I could see the principle that they're trying to work on, but now I can say to them, I can empathize. I understand that you've seen this, and this says this, and the principles of this are this.
Exactly.
But, you can see why it's there, and it's not
It's being able to explain to somebody why that method works, and then explaining why we don't do it. So yes,
why it doesn't work long term
on your dog will probably stop them pulling, because when they pull, they experience pain. And so they will try, it does, I don't personally don't think it works. They will try and avoid the pain and therefore not pull. But
Yeah.
you're training them to be avoidant of pain, not to engage and walk with you in a positive way. Like, I get how these things, because a lot of the criticism I will get on Instagram if I put out a reel or something that is anti-balanced trainers, which sometimes I like to do if I'm feeling a little
Just
icy
rub
about
it.
stuff. The criticism they will give me is that I don't understand how they work. Trust me, I know how they work. That's why I don't use them. I have the knowledge to choose not to use them because I know I have different ways that are as, if not more effective in the longer term, and that are kind and fair and ethical to the dog.
Yeah. And I think the element of it that is always mentioned is that it takes longer to do it kinder. And people, I think we're in this, we have a society and we have a, you know, it's like instant access, isn't it, to everything? And we have an addiction to it as humans. We want everything sorted now. And again, if I had, you know, a penny or pound for every time someone said the phrase "nip it in the bud," I would also be very, very rich. And I'm like, sometimes we can nip it in the bud, but most of the time we can't. That's not a phrase that you're going to use again.
And I always refer back to, and I've been really open about this on everything, about having that cognitive behavioral therapy that I had to overcome my fear of having my blood taken. That took a year, and I'm a human with really high cognitive processing. And it took a really long time to overcome.
Sure. And you did good.
I did good, and I've had 2 blood tests now since then, so yay me.
Yay you, well done.
I was able to look at photos, I was able to visualize stuff, I was able to explain and articulate the specific problem that I had. So it could have been, if I wasn't able to articulate it, someone thought it was all needles. I've got like 13 ear piercings and 4 tattoos. Like, it's not a problem to me. Like, no. You know, but being able to really narrow down the specific problems I had, and that still took a year. And we're doing a similar thing with dogs where we're really just guessing half of it. You know, we're going, I think your problem is this. I think it stems from this. I think it's that you think this is going to happen. And here's my behavior plan to overcome that. But there is, you know, there's a lot of guesswork that goes in behind that. And that's where, again, you have to be able to change things quickly. You're like, oh, actually, no, it isn't that, it's this.
Yeah, I quite like, sorry to interrupt. Right. Have you seen House before?
I know of it.
Yeah, so I started watching that more recently, and it's just made me think about that. Yeah, I'm addicted. It's terrible, but so good, and I'm addicted to it.
Bad.
And what they do, it's like they basically work with diagnostics in a hospital, and it's the mostly neurodiagnostic stuff that other hospitals can't diagnose. They can't get to the bottom of it. And what they'll do is they'll get like a big sheet of paper out, and they have loads of doctors around, and they fire off every single little option, even if it's silly, of what it could be, what a diagnosis could be, and then they put the symptoms in, and they just make it into like a massive board, and then they do process of elimination by getting rid of it. And I love that, because that's makes me think that that's kind of how I approach assessments with people. I'm like, it sounds silly, but I'm going to look at this as well, and if there's lots of things that don't agree with that, then fine, we'll scratch it off. But I don't want to miss anything. I would rather say the silly diagnoses of what are happening and then rule them out than just pinpoint one thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's why we need to have the vet checks done, because even if it looks behavioural, it can still be medical. And having that open conversation with other professionals to allow for a cross like profession working with every single dog. To say that we thought we were going to keep these episodes really short and sweet. This is approaching an hour. So
yeah, I have to go soon as well.
You do need to go soon. I think everyone probably needs to stop listening. They have things to do. I do think these episodes will vary in length. This was a huge topic that we were going to cover. I think if we've got loads of questions, I mean, we've always got topics to talk about. So
I think this is a really good starting topic, though. And hopefully everyone coming in is like, oh yeah, I've got an idea of how to be a really cool dog trainer now. Or they've gone, actually, I'm a dog trainer and I do all these things. Or if you're a pet owner, it might be, I know what to kind of look for in a
Yes.
dog owner, and what makes a good one. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Fabulous. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed the first episode. We will
thank you
be
for
back
joining me.
next week.
Yeah,
There's a big commitment on us with this one, isn't there? Weekly.
I'm all over it. To be honest, Kim, we talk
It's
every day and we talk about this stuff all the time. We might as well just put it on a camera and share it to the world. So
I did wonder if there was a way that we could just like download our voice notes.
we could. That would be really interesting. I think everyone would want to hear them actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of run talk in there as well, though.
Yeah.
So it goes between the two.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of which, Monday's episode is with Charlie, who is a canicross trainer. So if you've got New Year's resolutions about running or running with your dog, then that is going to be a great episode. She is so knowledgeable and came up with so much stuff that I hadn't even thought about. So,
and she's just wicked. She's fun.
Also ace as well. Yeah. So
amazing.
Stole someone else's dog to run with. Like, I like your dog. I'd like to take it for a run. The owner was like,
I think that sometimes as well. When I meet people, I'm like, do you think I could steal their dog for 40 minutes?
Yeah.
I don't know. They probably would say yes, to be fair.
They probably would say yes.
Yeah.
Free training for my dog. Yeah, please take the dog.
And then I was like, should I charge them for running their dog? This could be a good market. I'd be very tired, but
you would be very tired. Oh, right. I will see you next week.
Will do. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.